Among the early priests and spiritual leaders, there was a feeling that there was a name that could not be spoken, but whose power shaped lives and destinies. Children learned to listen to the winds, elders taught how to decipher the signs of the heavens, and each ritual was a dance with the invisible. It was not a matter of fear, but of profound respect. The divine was so immense that human words could never contain it. And so, the gods walked silently among men, revealing their presence only to those who sought them with open hearts. Before any sacred word was spoken, there was only the wind carrying ancient secrets across the African land. The desert, the rivers, and the mountains held stories of gods no one dared name. Every stone, every leaf, seemed to whisper forgotten names, memories of a time before writing. Have you ever stopped to think that, long before Yahweh was known, there were gods who walked among humans in ancient Africa? Could forgotten cults, rituals, and symbols have shaped religious traditions that endure to this day? Imagine yourself in ancient temples, where the sun rises over lofty stone pillars, and initiated priests unveil secrets that modern history tries to conceal. This is a journey through sacred mysteries, through the knowledge of civilizations that flourished on the banks of the Nile and beyond, connecting spirituality, culture, and symbols that span centuries. Prepare to discover an ancient legacy that has influenced the world in ways you may never have imagined. Before we delve into this enigma, have you subscribed to the channel yet? Leave a like and tell us in the comments where in the world you're hearing this ancient story from. On the banks of the Nile, life flourished in colors, sounds, and scents that would still impress any traveler today. Ancient peoples observed the sky, recorded the cycles of the moon and the sun, and understood that each star carried stories of gods who came before any known name. Their chants echoed through the valley, revealing that the world was inhabited by invisible, ancestral, and wise forces. Each ritual gesture was an attempt to touch the divine, even without knowing how to call upon it. And in this sacred silence, the mystery began to awaken. The first cities and temples arose along the banks of rivers, and even before any writing or carved stone, people knew the power of the sacred. Each offering, each ritual, each symbolic gesture was a bridge between the human and the divine. Silence was not empty, it was full of meaning, an ancient language that only the attentive could understand. And in that space between the visible and the invisible, the seed of all that would come after was born. The world still held its secrets, waiting for the moment to reveal more. Between shadows and light, echoes of power and mystery emerged, as if nature itself were a silent temple. Those who listened attentively could feel the presence of something greater, invisible, yet profoundly alive. But what exactly did these silent gods wish to teach? What mysteries would they leave for those who would listen? The wind, ever patient, seemed to carry answers that would unfold only for those who dared to seek them. And long before sacred texts echoed in distant lands, Africa already breathed spirituality in every corner. Ancient peoples saw life as a sacred cycle, where every animal, river, and tree possessed a divine spark. Traditions were passed down orally, through songs and stories told by the fireside, preserving secrets that would withstand the test of time. Each ritual gesture, however simple, carried profound meaning and a direct connection to the invisible universe. Thus, the African land became humanity's first temple. In Kush, Punt, and Kemet, the worship of the gods was a dance between the human and the divine, a constant dialogue with invisible forces. The people knew that the earth, water, and sky were not merely the backdrop of life, they were manifestations of the sacred. The songs and dances celebrated not only the harvest but the very essence of existence, connecting each person with something greater. And in this connection, a sense of belonging arose, the understanding that each gesture had repercussions beyond what the eyes could see. Temples began to rise, made of stone and wood, but also of intentions and chants that echoed on the winds. Priests, magicians, and spiritual leaders became the guardians of knowledge, deciphering what the stars and rivers tried to reveal. Each ritual was a bridge, each offering a secret language, transmitted only to the initiated. Faith was not a concept, it was a living, pulsating experience that shaped the hearts of all who approached. Echoing this silence, the first promise emerged. There was much more to discover, many forgotten names and ancient stories waiting to be revealed. A new chapter was about to begin, and the shadows of the past were already beginning to stir. Along the Nile Valley and the plains of Kush, the first cities emerged, where faith and daily life intertwined like rivers flowing together. Ancient peoples looked to the sky and saw more than stars. They saw guides, signs, and ancestral spirits that shaped destiny. Each sunrise was celebrated, each full moon revered, as if time itself were sacred. And in this daily awakening, humanity began to realize that life was more than just existing. It was a dialogue with the invisible. Each flame lit in the temples symbolized the light of faith, but also the warmth of ancestral wisdom. Children learned from an early age that the world was inhabited by ancient spirits, that history was deeper than words could express, and that devotion needed no name to be understood. Daily life became a ritual, and the simple act of living was a silent offering. And so, the flame of faith grew, illuminating the darkness of the unknown. But those first flames held secrets that not everyone dared to explore. Each temple concealed symbols that spoke of invisible worlds, of gods who still walked among men, and of teachings that would endure for centuries. The mystery was only beginning, and the paths of ancient African faith promised to reveal more than any story ever told. The next chapter was approaching, laden with discoveries and mysteries to be unveiled. Amon, known as the Invisible One, walked among men unseen, but his presence was felt in every decision and every breath of wind. Ra, with his solar brilliance, illuminated paths and created cycles of life and death, teaching that everything is fleeting, yet essential. Ta, silent and profound, gave form to matter and word, reminding us that to create is also to understand the spirit that inhabits every gesture. Ancient Africa, with its temples, oracles, and ceremonies, created an invisible bridge between the earthly and spiritual worlds, where the divine manifested itself in subtle and powerful ways. And as time passed, these flames of wisdom remained. Each myth, each ritual, each story told around the campfires was a thread that wove the spiritual tapestry of the continent. The people knew that these teachings would be the basis of future religions, although no one could predict how they would be transformed. Modern studies and archaeological discoveries reveal that many symbols and beliefs of later cultures have roots in this continent. Cave paintings, sculpted figures, and ritual objects speak of a complex spirituality that predates any known writing. The African people understood the sacred as something tangible, manifesting itself in daily life and in the cycles of nature. The world still held its origins, hidden in caves, temples, and the memories of the elders. And each discovery seemed to murmur, "Before all else, it was us." The civilizations of the Nile, Kush, and Punt not only worshipped gods, they shaped the very notion of the divine. Each city-state had its unique practices, but all shared the view that life and faith were inseparable. Rivers were venerated, the sky studied, and the soil treated with respect because it carried the traces of ancestors and the energy of the sacred. And in this harmony between man and nature, the concept was born that faith could exist without words, only with presence and intention. But there were still secrets that the African soil held for the attentive. Each stone, each symbol, each story hid lessons that would only be understood by those who dared to look beyond the obvious. Ancient African spirituality was not limited to temples or priests. It pulsed in every gesture, every look, and every song. And so, a new mystery approached, ready to be unveiled in the following pages of the continent's forgotten history. Lit. In the heart of Kemet, three divine forces dominated the people's imagination. Amon, the hidden one; Ra, the sun that awakens life; and Ta, the silent creator. Each had its role, its mystery, and together they formed the trinity that guided human and celestial destinies. In the temples, priests chanted songs that evoked their presence, and each ritual gesture was an attempt to touch the infinite. The people felt that these gods were not merely figures, but living forces, pulsating in the air, water, and earth. Together, they were more than gods. They were the essence of Kemet, the soul of a civilization that revered the sacred in every detail. Each temple dedicated to the Trinity was a microcosm of the universe, where symbols and images represented concepts that transcended common human understanding. The spiritual hierarchy, offerings, and ceremonies were carefully structured. Among the dunes and banks of the Nile, Ammonius reigned as the invisible, the god that no one saw, but everyone felt. His power was not measured in images or statues, but in the silent reverence of ancient peoples. Priests and kings knew that, to honor Ammonius, it was necessary to listen to the wind, observe the sun, and feel the pulse of the earth. Each cult, each chant, was an attempt to touch the intangible, to understand the incomprehensible. And in this mystery, the idea of a single, absolute God germinated. The stories told around campfires about Amon, Ra, and Ta were not merely legends. they were maps of the spiritual world. Each narrative carried lessons about creation, power, balance, and the relationship between the visible and the invisible. Children and adults absorbed these stories, understanding that the gods were not distant, but pulsed within each human being and in nature itself. And as time progressed, these myths became seeds of wisdom that would traverse continents and centuries. Because every action resonated in the invisible. The people learned that nothing was random. The rising sun, the flowing river, and the blowing wind were manifestations of divine will. And in this constant observation, the Trinity revealed its teachings to the attentive. But there were secrets that the Trinity still kept, mysteries that could only be understood by those who dared to follow in their footsteps with attentive eyes and open hearts. Each symbol, each ritual, each word whispered in the temples promised to reveal more than could be imagined. And so, the spiritual journey continued, preparing the ground for the next revelation. The beginning of monotheism hidden in the shadows of African history. The worship of Ammonius spread through temples and cities, but its greatest secret resided in the intimacy of the heart. Only the initiated understood that the god's true power lay in perception and spiritual connection, not in visible offerings or grandiose rituals. Each prayer was a dialogue with the invisible, each gesture a bridge between the human and the divine. And in this sacred silence, the seed of monotheism arose. The idea that a single spirit governed all things. Ammon did not need to be named or depicted to exist. His presence was perceived in the order of the cosmos, in the cycles of nature, and in human choices. This notion of an invisible and supreme divinity anticipated concepts that would later be attributed to other religious traditions. The people learned, often unknowingly, that the divine could exist without form and without limit, like a light that cannot be seen but warms. And this teaching would cross generations, silent yet powerful. Observing the movement of the sun and moon, the priests of Ammonius perceived that everything had a cycle, a purpose, a sacred rhythm. The world became an open book, where divine law was written in the waters, in the stones, and in the winds. Ammonius taught that true faith did not need images or complex words. It was enough to be aware of the sacred in everything around. And so, civilization learned to live with respect and reverence, connected to something much greater than it could see. But there were mysteries that still eluded mankind. Signs, messages, and symbols that only the most attentive could interpret. The invisible world of Ammon did not. In ancient temples, symbols whispered secrets that human eyes could barely perceive. The eye of Ra, open and vigilant, observed every gesture, every thought, reminding them that nothing escaped divine order. At the same time, there were sacred names, so powerful that they could not be pronounced carelessly. The people learned that the invisible was always present, that the energy of the sacred manifested itself in the subtlest details of life. And in this balance between seeing and not speaking, the mystery flourished. Among the rituals, the veneration of gods who personified strength, fertility, and protection stood out. Each ceremony was a profound dialogue with the universe, where men and women learned to hear the sacred in sounds, movements, and symbolic gestures. The skin color of these gods, so revered, reminded them that divinity was universal and that Africa carried the spark of creation. And so, the worship of these black gods became a heritage that defied time. Beyond the banks of the Nile, in the lands of Kush, the black gods walked among men and animals, blending power and wisdom. Their images were celebrated in statues, paintings, and rituals, but their meaning went far beyond form. Each deity represented forces of nature, spiritual principles, and the memory of ancestors. The people felt that these gods were not only protectors but silent teachers, instructing them to live in harmony with the world around them. And so, the land of Kush became a sanctuary of hidden knowledge. It revealed everything, keeping teachings that would only be unveiled later, like echoes of a wisdom that would span centuries. And so, the story continued, inviting the curious to discover the next secrets of ancient African spirituality, which would inspire future sacred traditions. The kings and priests of Kush guarded ancient secrets, passed down through generations, that connected human life to the gods and the cosmos. Each offering, each chant, each dance possessed a layer of meaning, revealing the invisible order that governed everything. The people learned that spirituality was not just devotion, but also understanding. Understanding the gods was understanding existence itself. And this legacy would be the foundation for spiritual influences that would transcend borders. Kushite traditions also directly influenced Egyptian religion, blending symbols and beliefs, as if rivers of wisdom flowed between civilizations. Priests traveled, taught, and absorbed knowledge, spreading ideas that would later be reinterpreted. Each myth told a story of power, balance, and connection to the invisible. And in the silence of the plains, the dark gods continued to guide the steps of men, invisible, but present in every decision. But not everyone could grasp the scope of this legacy. Some mysteries lay hidden in the depths of history, among forgotten temples and inscriptions worn by time. Each symbol, each ceremony, was a key to secrets that only the attentive could decipher. And in this echo of the past, the invitation arose, to move forward and discover how these ancestral traditions would shape the understanding of the divine in other cultures. In caves and temples, ancient chants reverberated like invisible waves, reminding us that each sound carried power. The sacred name, pronounced with respect, could touch the universe and invoke the presence of the gods. For African peoples, speech was not merely communication. It was creation, energy, and magic. Each word carried intention, each sound resonated in the earth, in the sky, and in attentive hearts. And so, creation danced alongside the first sounds of humanity. The stories told around the campfires spoke of gods who used the symbol of the eye to teach vigilance, justice, and wisdom. The silence before the sacred name showed respect and understanding that certain forces transcend words. Each generation learned that true faith manifested itself in awareness and respect for the invisible, more than in the repetition of rituals. And so, knowledge continued to flow, hidden in symbols that would traverse centuries. Each carved stone, each painted wall, carried hidden messages, symbols that spoke of protection, justice, and balance. The priests, masters of knowledge, taught that true power lay in perceiving what was unspoken, in understanding the invisible. The pronunciation of certain names could invoke forces, and silence became sacred. And so, wisdom hid in glances, gestures, and signs, waiting to be discovered by those with attentive eyes. The people, even without understanding all the details, felt the impact of these symbols and names. Each ritual, each offering, each chant was an attempt to harmonize life with the forces of the universe. The all-seeing eye was not merely an observer. It was a guide, a silent presence that directed choices and actions. And in the intimacy of the temple, in the whispers of the wind, the mysteries of the sacred began to reveal deeper layers of meaning. Ceremonies and chants celebrated sound as a universal language, reminding us that before writing or images existed, there was the voice that created and sustained. The people knew that each syllable carried a story, a teaching, a spark of divinity. The priests taught that the gods had shaped the world through sound, transforming chaos into order and emptiness into life. The sacred name could not be profaned. Its echo was older than any scripture and deeper than any river. Learning to hear it was to understand the rhythm of the cosmos and the essence of the spirit. Each intonation, each murmur, was a bridge between the human and the divine, revealing that everything that existed was connected by invisible vibrations. But there were still secrets that even the most experienced priests could not fully reveal. Each eye, each name, was a gateway to greater mysteries, indicating that full understanding required courage and perception. And in this silent invitation, the next chapter approached, promising to reveal more about the strength and power of ancient African spirituality, always beyond what is seen at first glance. Children learned, through games and stories, that listening was as important as speaking, and that reverence came from understanding what could not be seen. And in the echo of these ancient voices, the magic of creation remained alive. Paintings and symbols in temples revealed stories where gods and ancestors walked between light and shadow, guiding humans through hidden knowledge. On the banks of the Nile and among the ancient temples, the people learned to read life as if it were written in light and shadow. Each dawn illuminated secrets, and each dusk concealed them, showing that the world was made of opposites that complemented each other. Light revealed, shadow protected, and together they taught how to understand the balance of existence. The sacred was not limited to what was seen, but also inhabited invisible spaces, where only the attentive heart could perceive. And, in this play of contrasts, learning became profound and silent. Each sacred name held layers of meaning that only the initiated could decipher. The sound of creation was like an invisible map of the universe, guiding steps, decisions, and destinies. Daily life, from agriculture to rites of passage, was governed by these invisible vibrations, connecting each being with the pulse of the cosmos. And in this silent symphony, the gods continued to teach, reminding us that true power lies in understanding what transcends appearances. But there were still hidden mysteries among the sacred sounds and names, enigmas that would only reveal themselves to those who sought with patience and an open heart. Each ancient chant, each sigh of the wind, seemed to carry clues about the universe and the divine. And so, the next chapter approached, promising to explore how these ancient vibrations and names would connect with other cultures and traditions, crossing continents and centuries. The initiates learned that understanding the invisible required perception, patience, and courage to confront the mysteries. The light showed paths, but the shadow taught caution and reflection. And, in this silent learning, each individual became capable of perceiving the presence of the divine even in the darkness of the unknown. The language of light and shadow was also reflected in the architecture of the temples, in the alignment of the pillars, and in the orientation of the sanctuaries. Every detail, every angle, every opening to the sky carried profound spiritual intentions. The sacred space was not merely physical, but symbolic, a reflection of the cosmos that taught through experience and observation. And so, ancient knowledge spread, touching every aspect of life, visible and invisible. Ancient African rituals explored this contrast, using the sun, moon, and stars as guides to understanding the order of the cosmos. The people knew that each shadow had a meaning, each light carried a message, and that harmony only existed when both recognized each other. Priests and spiritual leaders interpreted signs, teaching that life is a dance between clarity and mystery, between action and contemplation. And each gesture, each offering, reflected this sacred dialogue. But not everyone could decipher these messages at first. The deepest secrets were hidden among the contrasts, waiting for those who dared to explore beyond the obvious. Each light and shadow revealed fragments of wisdom that would transcend generations, preparing the ground for the next discovery. The rituals, beliefs, and spiritual interpretations that would connect humanity to the divine in an even more direct and profound way. The stories told in the temples about the sun and its daily journey taught principles of renewal, balance, and vigilance. The light revealed paths, but also demanded responsibility. Those guided by the sun learned that every action had a consequence. The ritual experience was not only collective but personal, and each participant felt the pulse of life and divinity pulsing within them. And so, the mysteries of the sun continued to unfold. Offerings and chants were carefully prepared, each detail carrying profound intentions. Gold, incense, and fruits symbolized energies that the gods recognized and accepted as an expression of devotion. The people learned that the ritual was not a spectacle for the eyes, but a spiritual bridge between the human and divine worlds. And each dawn repeated this dance of light and intention, reinforcing the sacred connection with the universe. At dawn, when the first rays touched the banks of the Nile, the temples began to fill with murmurs and chants. Each word and each gesture was a greeting to the sun, the force that awakened life and illuminated the path of humankind. The ancient people believed that the sun not only brought light but also revealed divine secrets and guided the order of the world. And, in that first glimmer, humanity connected with the invisible in a direct and vibrant way. Priests and initiates performed ceremonies that followed precise rhythms, observing the movement of light and shadows on temples and altars. Each ritual sought to align human life with the harmony of the cosmos, teaching that the sacred is present in all cycles of nature. The sunrise was more than a physical phenomenon. It was a portal to understanding ancestral forces and receiving invisible blessings that would guide the day. And so, faith became practical and lived, not just remembered. In ancient temples and sanctuaries, only a select few were invited to tread the path of the initiated. These chosen few received teachings that could not be shared with all, guarding secrets about gods, symbols, and invisible forces. Each step of the initiate was a lesson in discipline, perception, and respect for the sacred. Learning was not limited to books or words. It was lived, felt, and experienced in the soul. And, in this process, each one began to perceive the universe in a deeper way. But the deepest secrets of the rituals remained hidden, accessible only to those who sought them with attention and reverence. Each gesture, each sound, each offering carried layers of knowledge that would span centuries. And in this silent invitation, the next revelation approached, promising to explore the path of the initiates and how spiritual knowledge was transmitted through the generations. Rites of passage marked each stage of the journey, demanding courage and sensitivity. Initiates were challenged to confront fears, decipher symbols, and understand the cycles of life and death. Each trial revealed a layer of the divine and brought the apprentice closer to the invisible essence that permeated everything. Silence, chants, and gestures became silent teachers, teaching more than any explanation could. And so, the initiate's journey transformed into a sacred dance. On the walls of temples, in tombs, and on stones scattered across the desert, ancient symbols told stories that few could understand. Each line, each figure, each drawing carried multiple meanings, revealing the connection between the visible and the invisible world. The ancient people believed that symbols were like sacred words, capable of invoking forces, protecting the living, and keeping the memory of ancestors alive. And, in this universe of signs, wisdom lay hidden, waiting for attentive eyes. Respect for secrets was absolute, because each revelation had the power to transform the one who received it. Mistakes or recklessness could distance the energy of the divine and bring imbalance. Therefore, patience and humility were as important as courage. Each initiate understood that true learning required time and total surrender. And in this delicate balance, the connection between the human and the divine was strengthened, preparing the ground for even greater mysteries. The knowledge passed on to initiates included reading signs in nature, interpreting dreams, and understanding the energies that connected humans and gods. Each teaching was a key to understanding ancient mysteries that would transcend generations and continents. Wisdom lay not only in memorizing facts, but in feeling and recognizing the presence of the sacred in every detail. And on this path, initiates learned to see the world with different eyes, attentive to the invisible. But the deepest secrets remained veiled, hidden beneath layers of complex symbols, stories, and rituals. Only those who remained attentive and dedicated could access the most ancient truths, connecting with the essence of African spirituality. And so, the next chapter approached, promising to reveal how these traditions would influence rituals, beliefs, and symbols throughout Africa and beyond. Some symbols represented gods, others forces of nature or abstract spiritual principles. Each geometric shape, each stylized animal, carried coded teachings that demanded careful interpretation. Priests and initiates spent years deciphering these codes, learning that visual language could be as powerful as any chant or prayer. And thus, the understanding of the sacred deepened, revealing connections that escaped common perception. Among the symbols, the Ankh, the Eye of Horus, and other emblems were more than decorations. They were keys to accessing the invisible. Every detail had a purpose, every curve held energy. Initiates learned to respect these signs, understanding that they contained the wisdom of generations and the constant presence of the gods. And, in careful interpretation, each symbol became a bridge between the human and the divine, between past and present. Symbolism was also connected to rituals and ceremonies, where each gesture or position had a hidden meaning. Dances, offerings, and chants were accompanied by signs that reinforced the intention and enhanced the energy of the sacred. The people understood that each ritual act was not only cultural but spiritual, a way of. Offerings of food, drink, and symbolic objects were carefully prepared, each detail reflecting respect and reverence. The colors, aromas, and sounds created an atmosphere capable of elevating consciousness and opening channels of communication with the divine. The people learned that power lay not only in what was given, but in the intention and attention with which each action was performed. And, in this understanding, the rituals became bridges between the visible and the invisible. In temples and villages, ancient rituals were more than ceremonies. They were portals to the invisible. Each gesture, each dance, and each offering carried precise intentions, connecting humans and gods in a silent dialogue. The people believed that by performing the rituals correctly, they could harmonize their lives with the forces of the cosmos and protect the community from negative energies. And in this subtle power, African spirituality flourished in all its intensity, to keep alive the connection with the invisible forces that guided life. And, in this dialogue between symbols and actions, ancient wisdom manifested itself. But not everyone could fully unravel the meanings, for the symbols held layers of secrecy, accessible only to the attentive and dedicated. Each discovery brought new questions. Each interpretation opened doors to even deeper mysteries. And, in this silent invitation, arose the promise of the next chapter, to explore the rituals, beliefs, and spiritual interpretations that made these symbols alive and full of power. But the deepest secrets of the rituals remained veiled, known only to initiates who dedicated their lives to understanding the sacred. Each gesture carried layers of meaning yet to be discovered, signs of a spirituality that would span centuries. And so, the next chapter approached, promising to reveal the unexplained mysteries and discoveries that still awaited attention. The ceremonies also strengthened the community, uniting people around a common purpose and reinforcing values such as balance, respect, and harmony. The rituals conveyed teachings about life, death, fertility, and the continuity of the natural cycle, reminding people that each being had its role in the cosmos. And in this sharing, ancestral wisdom was perpetuated, invisible but present in every heart. Beliefs were not mere ideas. They were living practices, transmitted orally from generation to generation. Each story told, each myth shared, strengthened the understanding of the sacred and prepared the faithful to participate in rituals consciously. Priests taught that faith manifested itself both in the heart and in actions, reminding them that to believe was also to act in harmony with the universe. And thus, the rituals became transformative experiences. Among ancient ruins, inscriptions, and artifacts, mysteries remain that defy modern understanding. Who created them? For what purpose? Each object seems to carry a forgotten message, waiting to be deciphered by attentive eyes. Archaeologists and scholars find clues, but many questions remain unanswered. Recent discoveries show that certain practices and beliefs, previously considered isolated, possessed standardization and intention. Each astronomical alignment, each complex ritual, each coded symbol indicates that there was a profound logic, a knowledge that transcended generations. And although not everyone understands, the message remains alive, waiting for those who approach with curiosity and respect. The mystery, therefore, is also an invitation to discovery. Each discovery challenges the idea that history only began when Europeans recorded events. And so, unexplained mysteries become gateways to understanding the intelligence and spirituality of these cultures. The answer reveals only fragments of a vast and profound knowledge. And, in this silence of time, ancient African history continues to whisper its enigmas. Cave paintings, pyramids, and temples aligned with the stars suggest that African civilizations possessed a sophisticated understanding of the universe. But how was this information acquired? How was it transmitted without formal writing? But there are still layers of secrets that time has kept hidden, guarded among stones, sand, and wind. Each fragment found is a clue to a larger story, connecting with the gods, rituals, and symbols we already know. And so, the next chapter approaches, ready to explore how these discoveries intertwine with neighboring cultures and how ancient African wisdom reverberates in the modern world. As one explores ancient African civilizations, traces emerge that are reflected in distant cultures. Symbols, myths, and religious practices show striking similarities to regions such as the Middle East and the Mediterranean. Some artifacts indicate connections with other continents, suggesting that African knowledge influenced traditions beyond the continent. Similar symbols appear in distant places, as if an invisible current of wisdom had crossed oceans and deserts. The ancient people seem to have an understanding of the world far beyond what was imagined, a perception that combines science, spirituality, and art. And in these signs, the past becomes a fascinating enigma. Merchants, travelers, and priests carried stories and knowledge, spreading ideas and rituals. Some later religious traditions seem to have absorbed concepts that originated in Africa, reinterpreting them in new contexts. The flow of learning and spirituality showed that geographical boundaries did not limit the circulation of wisdom. And so, ancient cultures intertwined like invisible threads in a fabric of global knowledge. African architecture, astronomy, and spiritual practices find parallels in other ancient civilizations, suggesting mutual influences and cultural exchange. The use of symbols, alignments with celestial bodies, and temples dedicated to unseen gods appear in various corners of the world. This interconnection reveals the history of humanity. These connections reveal that African knowledge was not isolated, but part of a network of wisdom that spanned continents. And, in this invisible exchange, Africa becomes the source of legacies that echo throughout the ancient world. The struggle for balance between tradition and innovation also marked ancient African history. Maintaining spiritual practices while absorbing external influences required wisdom, patience, and discernment. Priests and spiritual leaders became guardians, ensuring that knowledge was not lost, even in times of turbulence. And in this delicate balance, arose the strength of a culture capable of resisting and transforming itself. Despite their immense wisdom and spirituality, African civilizations faced internal and external conflicts that tested their strength and resilience. Disputes over territory, rivalries between kingdoms, and pressure from invaders brought moments of tension, but also taught lessons about survival and adaptation. Each challenge forced leaders and priests to protect not only the population, but also the sacred knowledge they carried. And, in this turbulent scenario, history continued to unfold, laden with mysteries. But many of these connections remain hidden, waiting for scholars and curious minds to uncover the invisible bridges of the past. Each discovery points to a larger story, where Africa not only created but also inspired and influenced distant civilizations. And so, the journey continues, preparing the ground for the next chapter. The conflicts, challenges, and transformations that these traditions have faced over time. It is not linear, but composed of silent dialogues between distant peoples. And, in this panorama, Africa shines as a central source of wisdom. African gods and their myths find echoes in foreign pantheons, as if the concepts of the invisible and the sacred had traveled along with oral histories and rituals. Respect for the divine, observation of nature, and the connection between light, shadow, and sound reverberate in practices far beyond the continent. Each similarity is a clue to how Africa influenced and inspired neighboring cultures. And, in this intertwining, new layers of mystery and learning emerge. The people learned that true power lay in faith and unity, even in the face of the most severe adversities. And so, each conflict also became an opportunity to strengthen spiritual and cultural bonds. Religious traditions and rituals have often become instruments of resistance, preserving ancestral identity and memory even in times of crisis. Temples, symbols, and chants served as anchors, keeping the connection with the divine alive. Invasions, climate change, and migratory movements created unexpected challenges, forcing civilizations to reinvent themselves and adapt their practices. Hidden knowledge and the secrets of the gods were cautiously transmitted, ensuring our survival through these transformations. Each generation learned to protect what was sacred, preserving rituals and symbols in a way that would allow them to endure for centuries. And in this process, the mysteries remained, invisible but intact. But not all secrets withstood the test of time. Some were lost, while others remained hidden, waiting to be rediscovered. Each challenge left lessons and fragments of wisdom that would transcend generations. And the echoes of ancient African civilizations still resonate in modern religions, in symbols, rituals, and beliefs that have crossed continents. The worship of gods, the veneration of ancestors, and the importance of balance with nature are reflected in spiritual practices that have reinvented themselves over time. Even without realizing it, many societies have incorporated these elements into their own culture, preserving fragments of ancestral wisdom that have resisted oblivion. And, in this invisible legacy, Africa remains present. The study of ancient African cultures also highlights the strength of a people who resisted, preserved their teachings, and influenced distant civilizations. Each symbol, each ritual, each myth is a reminder of the human capacity to create, imagine, and connect with the divine. And, by understanding these connections, we can value our ancestry and recognize the depth of its contribution to the modern world. Looking back, it's possible to see that the teachings of ancient African civilizations still resonate today. Their gods, symbols, and rituals have influenced religions, philosophies, and cultural practices worldwide. Each archaeological discovery, each myth deciphered, reveals fragments of wisdom that have survived the test of time, even in the face of oblivion and oppression. And in this silent legacy, Africa reveals itself as the cradle of knowledge that has shaped humanity. At this point in the story, the next chapter emerged. The final revelations and reflections on the African legacy and its influence on the modern world, showing the impact these civilizations still have today. Reflections on the past show that African spirituality was not merely belief, but a profound understanding of life and the cosmos. The connection between humankind, nature, and the divine taught balance, respect, and reverence. Today, these ideas can inspire ways of living in harmony with the planet and other beings, demonstrating that ancient wisdom remains relevant. And in this reflection, we realize that there is much to learn from those who came before us. Even the layers of mystery and hidden secrets carry valuable lessons. Learning to respect the unknown, interpret signs, and value the sacred are practices that can still enrich our understanding of life. Ancient African heritage is an invitation to rediscover spirituality, knowledge, and the art of living with intention. And, in this invitation, each revelation awakens more curiosity and admiration for the past. But the legacy still holds unexplored paths, awaiting those who wish to continue the journey. Each discovery opens new doors to understanding how Africa shaped the world and how its ancestral knowledge can inspire future generations. And at this point, the next chapter emerges. The impact of this knowledge on modern culture, religion, and science, connecting the past and the present in a fascinating and continuous way. Music, dance, and art also bear the marks of this ancient past. Rhythms, instruments, and movements echo African traditions that were transmitted orally and reinterpreted in different eras and regions. Each cultural expression reveals but there are still mysteries to be unveiled, layers of knowledge that remain hidden and await curious minds and scholars. Each discovery reveals that the African impact is more vast than previously imagined, influencing not only religions and arts, but also the way we think about life, spirit, and the universe. And at this point, the narrative approaches the next chapter. The lessons and transformations that these ancient traditions can still bring to the modern world. Spiritual practices and philosophies of life derived from ancient African beliefs have influenced ethical systems and religious rituals in diverse cultures. Respect for the cycle of life, for ancestors, and for cosmic harmony finds echoes in global teachings. What was once considered hidden knowledge is now revealed as part of universal human understanding, showing Africa as a cradle of insights that transcend generations. And, in this influence, each modern tradition carries fragments of the African sacred, a connection to spirituality, celebrating life, history, and the divine. And by perceiving these connections, one understands that the African impact is profound, pulsating in daily life and in the traditions that shape modern identities. Historical and archaeological studies continue to reveal how these ancient elements survived and transformed. Symbols, rituals, and myths that seemed lost are finding new interpretations, connecting the past with the present. Understanding these influences offers a broader view of human history, highlighting Africa's central role in the spiritual and cultural formation of the world. And, in this dialogue between eras, new questions and fascinations arise. Ancient African spirituality is not confined to the past. It continues to reverberate in today's practices, beliefs, and philosophies. Respect for the invisible, valuing ancestors, and connecting with nature are principles that transcend centuries, showing that the sacred is eternal and universal. Each teaching, even when adapted, maintains the essence of ancestral wisdom, reminding us that life is much more than what the eyes can see. And, in this legacy, time seems to fold back on itself. Oral transmission, music, dance, and art keep ancestral knowledge alive, even when other records have been lost. The African people and their traditions have shown that the memory of the sacred depends not only on books or temples, but on the attentive heart and the community that preserves its mysteries. Each gesture, each word, each song is a link that connects generations and ensures that the spiritual legacy is never erased. And, in this care, ancestry remains present. Ancient gods, symbols, and rituals have become inspirations for those seeking understanding and balance. Even in modern contexts, the energy of these elements continues to guide, protect, and illuminate paths. The connection between past and present reveals that African history is alive, vibrant, and capable of teaching profound lessons to those who wish to listen and learn. And, in this invisible thread, each ancient spiritual practice finds echoes in the contemporary world. And in this recognition, the feeling arises that there is always more to be discovered. As the story unfolds, it becomes clear that the secrets of ancient Africa were never completely forgotten, only hidden in the shadows of time. Reflecting on this legacy, one realizes that it offers more than historical explanations. It offers paths to living consciously, harmoniously, and integrated with the world. Ancient wisdom teaches about balance, respect, and the importance of listening to the invisible, cultivating a deep understanding of the universe. Each practice, each myth, and each symbol becomes a guide for those who seek to transcend the ordinary and understand the essence of life. And, in this learning, the past illuminates the present. But the legacy still holds secrets that defy understanding, waiting for those who seek more than easy answers. Each discovery is a gateway to even greater mysteries, showing that ancient Africa possesses spiritual treasures that transcend time and space. And so, the narrative approaches its final chapter, a conclusion that calls for reflection, reverence, and learning about everything that has been revealed so far. Ancient symbols, sounds, and rituals act as bridges between eras, connecting those who live today with those who walked millennia ago. The lesson lies in realizing that every action, every word, and every belief carries ancestral echoes, shaping cultures, spirituality, and human thought. Ancient Africa, with its spiritual richness, teaches that wisdom is not just history, but a continuous experience that transcends generations. And in this echo, the mystery remains alive. Reflecting on this heritage, it is impossible to ignore the depth of its contributions. The modern world, even unknowingly, carries fragments of African rituals, symbols, and principles that have shaped religions, arts, and philosophies. The reflection that arises is that knowing and valuing this legacy is to recognize that ancient Africa is not just the past, but an active presence in the present. And, in this awakening, the viewer connects with something greater than themselves. Each myth, each god, each ritual carries layers of wisdom that still resonate in the modern world. The viewer is invited to feel, rather than understand, the weight and beauty of these legacies, recognizing that truth often resides in the unseen. Thus, the story concludes as a living legend, a legacy that spans centuries and generations. The viewer is called upon to honor, respect, and reflect upon all that has been revealed, understanding that ancient African wisdom remains present. But not all secrets have been revealed. Many remain hidden, awaiting attentive eyes and hearts that wish to see beyond the visible. Each discovery opens new doors. Each reflection is an invitation to continue exploring ancestral knowledge. The narrative concludes without exhausting the mysteries, leaving the path open for new discoveries, new interpretations, and a continuous connection with the sacred past. And, in this revealing silence, the mystery breathes. If you enjoyed this ancestral journey, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and continue exploring with us the hidden secrets of ancient African civilizations. May this legacy inspire us to value our history, to respect the sacred, and to reflect on the invisible connection that unites past, present, and future. Remember, the mysteries do not end here. They continue in every gesture, every word, and every symbol that transcends time. In every corner of the world. And with this sense of reverence, the narrative cycle ends, leaving room for curiosity, learning, and contemplation, while the echoes of the past continue to whisper their hidden truths. And so, we come to the end of this journey through the mysteries and secrets of ancient Africa. The gods, symbols, and rituals we explore do not belong only to the past. They continue to live on, influencing cultures, religions, and philosophies throughout the world. With each discovery, we realize that ancestral wisdom has not been lost, only transformed, awaiting attentive eyes and curious hearts to reveal it.